Hi, Evelyn.
Hi, Lucy and Susanna. How are you?
Hey, hello, Evelyn. Are you right?
I'm good, thank you. It's lovely to see you both.
Yes.
Thank
How are you?
I'm good. I'm just back from Brittany.
Great.
I
You
came
have
back I came back overnight.
Well, thank you very much. We are going to try to be punctual, taking in consideration your time. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Susanna, and I'm co-owner of Beacon Business Commercial Services. We are business management consultants and will help business owners to achieve their growth goals. Andrew Walker, my business partner and husband, is on the background, is acting as our Zoom director to make sure that everything goes smoothly and also to capture the questions so we don't miss anyone. This is our second session of the collaboration series, Let's Grow and Future-Proof Your Business Together. So the objective of the collaboration is to bring together business owners and address and share knowledge on different business issues that we all could be experiencing. So it is June, award season, it's on in full flow now. So I'm joined by Lucy Donahue from Lucy Donahue Consulting. And our topic today is understanding how to communicate your story to the media. So welcome, Lucy.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. So as Susanna said, my business is Lucy O'Donoghue Consulting, which I set up in September 2012. It was during the recession. I had just left my job as membership development and PR manager at Cork Chamber of Commerce. And I had been doing some consultancy and decided I would set up on my own, and that one of the key services I would provide was in public relations. I think that public relations is kind of in my DNA. It has been part of every job that I've had, always writing stories, approaching the media, organizing photo shoots, getting stories out. So that's why I decided to launch and have that as part of my own service offering. So here I am. Thank you.
Thank you. So the objective of this session today is to give you a glimpse of the work involved in order that you can successfully be in the newspaper, in the podcast, or in a radio interview. So Lucy, we know we always are looking the newspaper, and today, especially for Network Cork, we are all over the Eco Live with the awards pictures. So, but maybe you can explain why some stories are published and others aren't.
Okay, so some stories are published because there is a story there. There's a real hook. There's something that the media are interested in. The timing is right. The story is accompanied with really good high definition photographs. You're piggybacking on something that's happening at the moment in the media where, for example, like Dublin Airport, what's happening there. If you have an input or a thought on that process, that will get published as well to accompany the story. It can be about timing as well, Susanna, and a bit of luck to get stories published. Sometimes a story won't get published because the journalist will think, oh, that story really is just about selling the product. And we're not interested in giving column inch to someone who just wants to sell their product. We want to know more about it. What are the benefits of it? The timing as well. Again, as I said this week, there's an awful lot of column inch and radio time being given to Dublin Airport. So that means other stories are being dumped. They're not getting covered because there's no space or there's no time to cover them. So if we had launched a story early this week and it coincided with this, chances are it might not get covered. Okay. Again, if the journalist isn't interested in the story because they don't see a hook in it, or that it's something unique or different or interesting, they'll just delete it and then move on to the next thing. So it's a combination of things.
So if I'm a business owner, which kind of information how can I create a hook for the media so that they want really, because we understood that we were in a trade. Do you remember that talk with the Examiner some months ago? And they mentioned it is in for my readers.
Yes.
So how can we know that our story has a hook or create the right hook?
It's by delving deep into the details of the story. Like, for example, I worked with a law firm who told me, they said, Lucy, we're appointing a chief executive to our law firm, and this person is not a lawyer. It was the first time ever that it was done in Ireland. Okay, so this person had come from a very different sectoral background, and that was the unique thing about the story, that he wasn't a solicitor or a lawyer, and that it was the first time a law firm were appointing a CEO. So that was what was different about that. And so the business media and the legal correspondents in the media were interested in that story. Another story that I worked on was the launch of a flight simulator here in Cork with a flying academy. That was a multi-million euro investment in Cork. So obviously the business journalists were interested in that, and also the aviation journalists, and it got backing from government. So they were unique stories, they were different, and they were going to be high profile. And with good imagery, those stories were covered. So if you have a unique selling point, or there's something different about what you're doing, or something topical, like last year we did a story around air quality and how you can measure the quality of the air in your home, in your office, in the theatre, in the laboratory. And everything to do with air quality is so topical over the last 2 years, Susanna, because of the pandemic, because of COVID.
Thank you. So, but if you think, for example, we as a small business owners, I'm looking around, and I think I know all the business except one of the ladies or two. So how our business can become relevant for the audience? So because we probably will not have a multi-million contract with the air industry or the fly industry. So how it is that our story could have that interest for the media?
Well, my first question is, do you have a story? You know, what is it? What's different? What do you want to talk about? And then I will then see if there is something in that we can make a story around.
Okay.
So you have to have the hook all the time, Susanna. You have to put yourself into the shoes of your readers or your listeners, or who your customers are and where they are. What are they looking for? What can they get from me that they can't get from somebody else? And that's what I'd be looking for.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have Fiona Walsh that is expert on doing this, but I will share slides for talking about the third question that I have. So it is all about what would it make, so how important is the visual content?
It's very important. So photography is a large part of public relations. So it's about working with good photographers and taking very good photographs that will accompany the story. Okay. So what I do is I work with my client and I figure out, where will we take the photographs? What props will we use? Who will be in the photographs? Where we're going to be sending the photographs. Are they going to be used for print media, for social media, for magazines, all of that? So this photograph was taken with Azure Jewellery, whom I worked with. This is a new shop and studio upstairs in a renovated building in the city centre. The red brick is part of the old building, which was retained. So in this photograph, we combined the new with the old. It's a lovely shot that can be used for many purposes. And at the same time, we took loads of photographs of her products, of all the beautiful jewellery. Because for that media campaign, Susanna, I needed photographs of her stock, you know, lovely staged photographs that I could send to media as well. We also took a lot of photographs at the launch event. So we had social shots of people mingling and enjoying the evening. But that's a beautifully staged photograph. That took time and effort. Okay, so the next photograph then that I picked, this was taken in just after the first lockdown in 2020. We all had to social distance. This was a very big project involving multiple stakeholders and organizations. It had to be outdoor because of COVID, and we had to social distance. So I had to arrive early at the location with the photographer and really scope the gardens and see where were the possibilities of taking different types of photographs. So there was 3 parts of the gardens that we used. That one is looking down at the group, and you can imagine trying to organize those people to social distance, because if a photograph went out into the media where we weren't social distancing, we would be in big trouble. It's unusual to have that number of people in a photograph. I would normally just like to have 3 or 4 max. But other photographs we took in the day had smaller numbers, but in that one I wanted to get everybody together, and it worked out well. A lot of coordinating, a lot of choreography, Susanna. Yeah. So this one really is it's a social shot. This was the launch of a retail shop. A few days prior, we had, after the store closed, we had taken a lot of product shots again, which I needed to send to selected media about the products that they sell. This was the launch event where these are the 3 speakers. So again, I had teed up some of the media that they would get a lot of social shots, like the Echo, when they take a page of social photographs. So on the day, I was going around with the photographer, making sure lots of different combinations of people were taken in photographs, including the speakers, including the owners, their friends, their family. So I had a list of photographs that evening to take. So that's a nice one. It's a nice color. This then was last summer. Douglas Lawn Tennis Club had come out of level 5 restrictions. They were reopening. We were very excited, and they were holding the first wood racket tournament held in Europe. It's held in Douglas over a weekend. So you could remember the days when we played with the wood racket. I'm showing my age now, but it was very exciting. And Taoiseach came that Saturday to launch the tournament. The weather was a bit dodgy that day. I was going around holding a big umbrella over people, trying to keep him and others dry. Part of what you do on photo shoots. But he was very open to any kind of photograph, really. And he was kind of running towards the camera and had just hit the ball. So again, kind of figuring out what would the Taoiseach be open to doing? Would he like to do these kind of shots? And he was. So it was great that he was open-minded. So again, that landed in a couple of the newspapers.
Brilliant. So I will stop sharing. Yeah. So basically, the photography has to convey the message that you are coming across. So because, as they say, images speak louder than words. So people need to see the photography and know exactly what you are trying to convey and attract to people to read the message.
Yes, and I will work closely with my client about again what types of photographs they're happy to be in, or how to behave, or how to dress, who they want in the photographs. I'll write the caption, get their approval for it, liaise with the photographer. He'll know what we want to achieve on the day, where the photographs are going to be sent. He kind of think he might think of something that I don't think of, and we'll work together. And he'll say, "What about this shot? You think he'll do that?" I said, "Well, we'll ask. Get him to jump over the net. Who knows?" But I will always have a list of photographs that I want to get done on the day, and I'll be ticking them off. And knowing that you only have the photographer for an hour, perhaps, so how much can you get into that hour?
And we are talking. Sorry, that for the ideal is to have a professional photographer for those kind of activities.
Picture desks and magazines and those, they won't accept photographs taken from your iPhone or your smartphone. They're not good enough quality. So if I go to a picture desk or a journalist with a photograph that's not good quality, it's my reputation is on the line because I haven't provided them with what they want. So it's worth spending that little bit of money and time getting professional photographs taken. And some of those photographs appear again and again. The client has them, so they can keep them on stock and on file and use them for other purposes because they own them, they've paid for them, once they credit the photographer.
So in my experience, as a marketing director in multinational businesses, a press release and all the media exposure coming out of it was part of a multimedia campaign. So when people talk to me about a press release and thinking that will bring results as a one shot, I've kind of a struggle. So how do you translate that, my experience, in the small business?
How do you mean? Sorry, Susanna?
So how different is for a small businesses, or what is the process for a small businesses in terms of, is the press release an isolated activity, or it is also part of a campaign?
It can be an isolated issue if there's just one story that they want to communicate to the media with photographs or nice graphics. Sometimes a campaign then can be multifaceted with different elements to it. And it could also involve social media. I mean, social media really is part of every campaign that I do now. So that's why you need the good photographs as well. Whether you're a sole trader, an SME, or a multinational, your customers, I'm quite sure, are on social media, and that's where you need to communicate with them as well. So often when a media outlet will cover the story, you can put a link to the story in a social media posting. So we're all in that world, and that's where we need to be. So it's just working on both, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, and I guess also it is depending on what it is, what we call the call to action, or the action that we want people to, because if I'm in my press release, I'm talking about the new service. Yeah. And I said, for more information, go here. And when I go here, there is no information, or there is a landing page that actually it says a lot of things, but doesn't talk about what it's supposed to. I click to go to see.
Absolutely. So, and I would always say to my clients, is your website up to date? Is it current? If we're promoting a new product or a service, are all the details on the website? Is the free phone number working? Is the info at? Is there somebody behind that email to keep an eye on it and to be answering queries? Are your social media accounts up to date? When did you last post? If you didn't use your Twitter account for 6 months and we're sending out a story tomorrow, people will say, why haven't they tweeted in the last 6 months? So you have to think about all of those things and get all those ducks in a row before a campaign goes out. So, if we're launching a new product, and people want to buy it, are you ready on the back end to start packaging it and getting it out? You have to have all of these systems in place, because I do my job in getting the word out. But if you're not there in the background to pick up the queries and the interest, then it'll fall flat.
We have one question, and Andrew?
Yes, it's from Agnes. And it's, how do you phrase the introduction email or initial contact to the journalist? Hannah, how often should you contact them for a reply? So Lucy, obviously, question in your direction.
Okay, Agnes, thank you. I have the relationship with the journalists. So if I'm pitching to them, I know how to phrase that. And they will know that they're getting something good from me, Agnes, because they know me. I would contact them 2 or 3 times over a period of time, and then I might let things lie because they might not be interested in it, or the timing mightn't be right. If I leave it a while, I might go back to it in a couple of weeks again and see if there's interest again, if that makes sense. But I think for me, as a person who works in PR, I have the relationship with the journalists. They know me, I know them. I know how to kind of phrase the intro paragraph or introduction to them. But I will be introducing the story and my client and how I can help them the best way to actually publish the story, what I can give them. So I can give them the press release, I can give them good photographs, I can provide access to a spokesperson, my client is open to being interviewed, all of that. It makes the process easy. Does that help, Susanna?
Yeah, yes, that makes sense to me. So it is when normally, Agnes, what I think a good clue to know if we are actually talking to them or about ourselves is when you phrase your emails, it talks all about I or us. So that means that I'm just telling you what fabulous I am, what great I am, and not talking about what the problem that they may have, or what is this the solution, or what is the benefit that they will get. So it basically, if you communicate in this is going to be good for you or your readers, and this is what I think your reader will be interested, then
Yeah.
you immediately, at least, will get the attention of them.
And short emails as well to journalists. They don't have time to read long emails. So you really have to get to the point, because they get so many emails every day and so many interesting stories. It's how can you stand out? So sometimes if you don't know the journalist, it can be harder to break through.
So we have another question from Sinead, and she asked, when there is it's a company that has a large number of products or services, how do you decide what to basically talk to the media?
To talk about a particular, is it which product?
Yeah, so how do you do it if you actually have a large offer of products or services? So how do you talk, how do you explain that do you focus on who the business is, what they do as a generic, or do you go and pitch each of the product or services individually?
I'd probably look at all of the products and try and pick out a few that would be of interest to readers, rather than trying to sell everything. What are the benefits of the products? Who would buy them? Why would they buy them? What would they do for me if I bought them? You know, it's like the air quality product before that I talked about. There were many products available there, but this one specifically can be used to measure the quality, the air quality in your office or in your room. So the fact that we are all going back out into offices, people are curious to know, what is the air quality like now that 6 of the 10 of us are back? Is it safe? Should we have the doors open? Should we have the windows open? So we just picked one product to really beam in on. I'd be interested to know what all those products are, and then pick out a few that I think journalists or readers or listeners would be interested in, what the benefits to them are.
Yeah, what I in my previous life, we will do is, either if we were known in the market, so if we were well known, we will actually focus on either something that it was either a new brand, a new product, or something that it was new to the. We will isolate it from the rest because we were known in the organization that we were not really known. Beside a little bit in the industry, we will actually talk about the company and the general service to the community, or to whatever the solution that we are providing to customers, and then focus on one of them. I normally will be the more successful, or the one that really want to promote. So
yes, you could pick one that's really successful, but then one that's probably not quite so successful, and you want to give it a push. You want to see if people will buy it. You know, what's happening in the world today? What's happening in society today? And do you do something that can link into that? You know, we're coming into the summertime now, you know, the sun shining. Is there a new sun cream coming out, you know, that we'll all want to buy because we want our SPF 50? You know, you kind of have to think about what's going on, you know, and as you could come across as an expert as well in something that will complement a story. So again, back to the air quality, you know, you have engineers, you have people who are experts in this area who will be able to push the product because they know the benefits of it and why people should buy it.
Thank you for that. So there is another thing that we normally will do in the past. I use LinkedIn a lot. And for example, I wrote an article a while ago that it was all about thought leadership or go-to person. And my point, or the one that I was trying to make, was that to be known as an expert, first of all, you have to be an expert. So you don't create an expert. You actually are an expert. It's just simply, but when what you know is one thing, that another people know that you are, it is where media can help to amplify your message. So how you can you see the PR campaign supporting this objective?
That's a really good question, and it's one where a lot of people on the call today can perhaps position themselves. Media want to speak to experts, and they want to have you in their black book so that they can very quickly and easily get to you to comment on an issue. Okay, and it takes time. It takes a lot of consistent work. maybe not in a PR campaign, but it can be, and I've done this, but it's more, okay, I get your bio, I get your photograph, and I have a very detailed knowledge of who you are and what you do. And then I pitch you to relevant journalists in relevant media as an expert. So I'll use an example. You were at the Network Cork Awards last Friday, and you met the MC, Gina London. So Gina is American. She came to Cork about 5 years ago, and I met Gina, and she asked me to help her to raise her profile because she was new in Cork and she didn't know anyone. And I said, what's different about you, Gina? What are we going to say to media about you? And she had an in-depth knowledge, or has an in-depth knowledge of American politics, and had worked on Capitol Hill and had worked in CNN. So we were approaching the American elections, the one where Donald Trump was elected. So this was about, So this was about 8 months before the elections in America. So I said, the hook is you as the expert on American politics. All Irish, we love American politics here. The media spend a lot of time talking about American politics. So we developed a strategy together where I pitched her to loads of radio shows, TV shows, all over Ireland. And to this day, she is still called in to speak about issues in America because they know her to be very articulate, very eloquent. She's an expert. She knows her way around politics and the legal world in America, and she can talk very succinctly about things. So that was a lot of hard work. I had to identify the shows. I had to identify their researchers, email them, talk to them, because you can make a really good impression when you speak to the journalist. So I was speaking to the researchers, the presenters, pushing her forward. And then when we got closer to the time about the election, then we started to see traction. She started to appear. And to this day, she still writes a weekly column in a Sunday newspaper. And that came about from that campaign. So it takes a while, Susanna, as you know. You are the expert, you know what you're talking about, but it's getting in front of the right media so that they will call on you when something comes up in the media, and they will ask you for your opinion, and that you're available fairly promptly to speak. So that takes a lot. You have to be consistent out there like you do on LinkedIn, Susanna, writing, commenting, liking, initiating conversations. And then you're in front of people and people will start to say, yes, she is an expert. She's good. I like her. I like her style. I like the way she sounds on radio.
Thank you. So that's actually very interesting. So we know that people buy from people. And in Cork, when we just moved here, everybody repeated many times at the beginning. So that meant that they don't know us. But hence the reason that the referral marketing is quite strong in this point of view. So how does it translate in the relationship with the media? Because you mentioned before in the answer to Agnes, your relationship with the media. So how this people buy from people is reflected in your relationship with them?
It's the same, it's all about relationship building, which I've been doing for the last 20 odd years. Keeping in touch with journalists, getting to know them, getting to know what stories they like, knowing what interests them. And sometimes, even if there isn't a campaign that I'm running on, journalists will still contact me and say, Lucy, do you have a client who would be interested in this feature, or a client that we could profile? So I think it's very important to have a good, solid relationship with them. They know they can trust me, that I'm coming with a good story. There's good content, there's good photographs. I will take their calls. I will answer their calls. I've been known to, reply to emails at 9 o'clock at night or take calls on Sunday. And they know that I'll do that to help them get the story over the line. And once they know that they can trust you and that you will get them the quote, or you will get the client to ring them back, then that helps with the story and it helps to get it out. And when I'm working on a campaign, Susanna, I will put in the hours. I will answer that email at 9 o'clock, because it means if it gets the story over the line and the person appears on the radio the following morning, or the article goes in, but the journalist has one teeny weeny question they have, I will do that, and I'll keep the relationship going. And, I've seen the great work that Network Cork got, or the great coverage he got, in the papers. All those journalists I know, they're people who like to get good quality materials. So yes, people do business with people they know and trust. And journalists are so busy and they've so many stories to file within a day or within a week. They want to know they can trust you and get good content.
Following with the quality of the content. So we know that many business owners tend to believe that, first of all, we have so many hats that we think that we can do everything. And it doesn't matter because people know that we are a small business, so I can do it like this. So, but in your experience, which kind of materials are required when sending a press release that the quality, it doesn't matter the size of your business?
Okay. So when I start with a client, I will say to them, look, I'm going to ask a lot of questions because I have to, because I want to get really deep into the story and about you. And I will ask questions that you might think are a bit odd, but it might lead to something else that will help with the story. I write the story. There's a structure to that in a press release. There are a few people here on the call who are familiar with that. There are certain things that you have to put in a certain order in a press release. Otherwise, the journalist will just delete it. Okay. I know what will be of interest to a journalist and how to phrase it and what are the key things. So that's where my expertise comes in, Susanna. Not everybody can write or write well. I will write the story and I will research around it, and I will always send it back to my client for final approval to ensure that everything is included, and that it's correct, that it's factually correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what we know also, you need to invest on headshots. If you are going to produce photography of your site, your office, or the shop, it needs to be a high quality, done professionally. Logos, it has to be high resolution. You have to have the color one. You have to have a black and a white, because depending on the background is how the logo will go. So there are elements that are linked to branding, but there are basic elements that you have to have in your kit to actually be able to send to the press release. Because imagine if you are lucky enough, you do it without the relationship to the media, and the news is so topical and your angle is so good that they take it. You need to have at least the quality of the materials that you send together. It has to be high quality so that they can take you. They don't measure which size of the business or who is sending the material.
Yeah, and somebody like me I'll be able to gauge what is of interest to the journalist from the story. What are the facts that they want? Somebody might say to me, they put in a statistic and I say, can you stand over that? Where did you get the statistic from? Because if we can't stand over the statistic when asked by a journalist, we lose credibility. So there's all those kind of things that, tips and tricks that I'll have in my armory. And yes, I will not send out a press release unless I have all of the things that I need, because then the journalist will come back a bit annoyed that they haven't got everything that they need, or they haven't got it on time, or they haven't got it when we promised. And then you're on the back foot. So I will always say to a client, look, this is what I need to do the job properly. And yes, we do need to get new headshots taken, perhaps, because the ones you have are not great. Yes, we do need to have photographs. During COVID, I was lucky once or twice we were able to use photographs that we had from previous campaigns that were still we were able to get away with because we couldn't organize photo shoots. But that's because we had a good portfolio on file already. So yeah, there's a lot of planning and a lot of work, Susanna, to get it right and then send it out. And then phase 2 starts when you send it out, because then you're following.
So we have a question, Andrew?
Yeah, it's a question from Paul for Lucy. Paul had a Zoom call with Gina yesterday. He was interested in your point made about what was different about her, you felt, in communicating her story or her message, and how does she do it well, and what is the learning or the outcomes that you could share for us here on the call?
Well, because like yourselves, Gina was new in Cork. She had come from Italy. She didn't know anybody in Cork, Andrew. So the idea was to start with something to start getting her profile out there. And whilst we were working on profiling her for speaking at events or for being MC, delivering her training programs, we just felt that the hook about the American politics was something that she could do very easily and very professionally. The outcome is that she's still appearing in the media to talk about anything to do with America 5 years later, because she makes an impact and because she's good and because she does pick up the phone and she does reply to the media when they're looking for her. It took months of work, as I say. We tweaked Gino's bio a few times along the way, given her experience. We would have changed it slightly for some media than for other. I think the fact that she keeps a very high profile online.
Yeah.
Paul, you might see her on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, all through the pandemic, when her life changed, when all of her in-house speaking engagements and training engagements all went out the window, she maintained a very high profile on social media. And while she was putting herself forward as an expert, a lot of her video clips are giving. They're giving you and I something. She puts up on LinkedIn, I think, some nice videos where it's a thought for the day. And she asks you for your opinion or your thoughts, and she replies to them in a very caring manner. So she helps to keep her profile high. And it's not always selling what she does. It sometimes is like on Instagram, but it's also giving her thoughts and her feelings and her experiences and just sharing with them. And that's how it has worked for her. And the fact that she came back to Cork, she was delighted. She told me to be back in Cork with everybody, where she had started her journey. But she maintains activity all the time. It's consistent.
Yeah, and I think it's consistent. The message is consistent in her branding, and the human element that is important, because we all are humans and people buy from people that you like. Yeah. And that's why showing the emotional part of your brand, your business, is important, because it doesn't matter how good your product or service or how boring it is, because it could be a software that manages processes. However, the people will know it is you, the brand, the emotional side of the brand, the one that actually will connect with people that will want to join together with you.
Yeah, and someone like Gina will admit, and I will, that it can be a slow burner. It can take time when you're putting yourself out there as an expert. It can take time before you start appearing in the media, or before you're being asked to speak at events. But whereas there is that consistency with her, and in her branding as well, and in her voice. And any one of us can do that if we are an expert in something.
So thank you for that. So something that I really love, we both we have a lot of experience in achieving and driving results for business. So how we measure the return of investment on the PR campaigns? So how business know that they are spending the money that it was right to spend the money?
Well, hopefully that we get the return, that we get coverage in the media, that we see and that we see a reaction to that. Hopefully that there might be an increase in activity on the website. When you look at the Google Analytics, that you can see perhaps people are going to my website, they are landing on a certain page. If it's a product or a service that we can sell, hopefully that people are starting to buy, or they're starting to talk about us. Sometimes when I work on a campaign, it can be weeks, it can be stretched out over weeks, which I think is good, because then people say, oh, I saw Susanna in the Examiner, and then there was something in the Echo, and then there's something in the Irish Times, and I heard her on 96 FM, and people start to think Susanna is everywhere. What is it about Susanna and her business that I should be looking into? And then that they reach out to you. So there's lots of different combinations as well. If you're on social media, what is the interaction with you as a result of the story? Are people engaging with you? Like I did an interview for a client. Actually, I did the interview on 96 FM some time back, and the client was watching the website to see what the hits were. And he was able to report back to me how many people went onto the website as a result of my interview. And it was like the pressure, you know, but there was a little bit of traction. Now, whether that translated into people actually engaging and doing what we needed them to do, it didn't happen immediately. So, it's often about planting the seeds, Susanna. People know and hear about you, like Gillian is here from the Triskel, you know, so she's going to be talking about shows that are coming up, but the show mightn't be for 2 months or something. But now she wants people to start buying tickets, but they mightn't buy them until closer to the date because they're not quite sure about where they're going to be, or, you know, will COVID shut us down again, or will I go on my summer holidays? It'll be lastminute.com. But at least Gillian has put the message out there and people know about what's happening at the Arts Centre and these fab shows are coming up. So it's about just people being aware of you and that you're there, so that when they choose to buy a scented candle or an air quality product for the office, or they're looking for financial advice from Evelyn, that they know where to go then, because you're in the front of their mind and not somebody else. So it can be a burner.
It is what we normally call, is depending on where the buyer, where they are in the buyer's journey. If the call to action is buy now and you are ready to buy now, you actually probably will have more chances if they see that you are everywhere. If the product or service or the solution that you're offering is something that is in the back of your mind, maybe what you I'll do is only to sparkle that, okay, I need to gather information. And remember that 98% of people don't talk to anyone in their, they are searching for any solution online. So you will not know, and the maximum that they will do is to give you the email address, for because they don't want to talk to anyone until they are closer to understanding better and evaluating suppliers.
Yeah, it's true. I remember when we went into lockdown in March 2020, I think it was April, it was a very important birthday in my family, and I was saying, what am I going to do? I can't buy anything, and I didn't really shop a lot online, but I remembered then a lady in the Network Ireland community who has a retail store, and I thought, I'll check out if she's selling online, and she was doing a weekly shipment of products. Once a week she was shipping. This was in the very early days before anybody had really got to grip properly with the online shopping. But I had never shopped online or in her store, but I knew of her and I remembered her and I knew she had fabulous stuff, and I bought from her. And the gift arrived promptly, and there was a note in it from her because she had seen that I had bought online from her and she knew me. So, you know, that company was in my consciousness all the time, and that was the opportunity. And I went back and bought from her again after. And she rang me one day to say, Lucy, you bought a few times from us. This is fabulous. And I was delighted to get the call from her as well. But so all her marketing and her branding and all her social media communication and her emails to me worked. It took a while, but it worked, and I finally bought.
Yeah. So give us an example of a great PR campaign.
Oh, okay. There have been so many, because I mean, I did so many when I was in Cork Chamber. With my clients, I suppose I will go back to Azure Jewellery. So Audrey is an incredible lady. She runs a very successful jewellery business, but she designs bespoke wedding jewellery. And she came to me and said, you've been recommended to me, Lucy. I knew who recommended me. She said, I'm celebrating 10 years in business. I'd like to get some publicity. So I said, great, let's meet. But I discovered when I met her, there were many other elements to the story. She was also moving shop and studio from Carey's Lane to George's Quay, where she had bought a derelict building and was restoring it in conjunction with Cork City Council because there's a preservation order. And I said, this is a part of the story too, Audrey. You know, there are the property pages, interior designers, engineers, they're all going to be interested in that element of the story. So there was, you know, moving shop and studio, celebrating 10 years in business, the bespoke wedding jewellery part as well, which is very, very beautiful jewellery. So I loved working with her because visually, I knew we were going to have amazing photographs. And then when I got to get to see the building, so we got amazing coverage, Susanna. Like the property supplement in the Irish Examiner did a huge piece on her. One of the interior sort of architecture features was on the shop. There was a whole spread on being a female entrepreneur in the Business Post, designing bespoke jewellery, because she had left a corporate career to start designing jewellery. So it was an amazing one. And then she had a launch event and she asked me to help with that as well, where the new shop and studio was opened, and she invited customers and suppliers and family and friends and everybody to come, and we got loads of social shots that evening as well. So there was, as you can see from this, there were several elements to her story, but only by asking a lot of questions I discovered all of those different hooks. So she appeared in lots of different media for different reasons. And I mean, I love jewellery anyway, and she was such a dream to work with, a very open-minded person. It stands out in my mind as being a very special campaign, and we just got so much coverage. She put herself out for anything. Yeah.
Fabulous. So being conscious of the time, so I just have basically 2 more questions. So it is award season. We just have on Friday, Network Cork, we have the fantastic, my first ever in-person award, and I just loved it every second. So there is a lot of coverage for the 31 finalists, and obviously this week is all about the award winners. So what follow-up actions would you recommend to make so that they can make the most out of it?
You need to act fast if you haven't already. That's my advice. Because every day you're losing kind of momentum with the awards and trying to pitch. Pitch to where you're an expert. What is your sector? Who, if you're an accountant or a solicitor or you design jewellery, who would be interested in that story? What's your background? Why you won it? What you've been doing? You need photographs as well, Susanna. Okay, so I've worked with people who have won awards, but they teed up with me before the awards to say, Lucy, I'm going for an award. I've been shortlisted. The awards are Friday. I think I'll win. Can we write a press release, short and sweet? And then we'll have the professionally taken photographs. So hopefully in Network Cork, all of the winners have been sent copies of the photographs that were taken of them on Friday night that they can use themselves. If there's a local newspaper or radio station where you live, they should be targeted straight away. I remember doing an awards press release for somebody who had a really good newspaper in her area. So in advance, I had teed them up and said, look, she's in the running for an award. Even if she doesn't win, she's shortlisted. Can we still put the story in? And they did, because they had kept the space and they got the professionally taken photograph. So I think act very fast this week if you can, Susanna. You know, if there are, tell all your suppliers and your clients you've won. You know, they should know straight away. Write a blog, you know, put something up. If there are specialist publications in your sector, go after them. But again, you're going to need the press release as well.
Okay. So for those people who are not yet gone to the award session, so the message it is, think about it. If you think that you can win it, what would you do now? Think about it in advance.
Yeah. If look, to be shortlisted, you're a winner anyway, undoubtedly, and that's something that you should be. And I know that there was a lot of publicity around the awards who were shortlisted as well, and great publicity. But even if you don't win in the night, you can still publish the story, you know. and you'll have good photographs. So you should shout loud about all those things. And I've worked with people in the past where we've gone after very specific media. We might pick 4 or 5 just niche media with the story, and we've sent the press release and the photograph. And I think if you're in a particular sector like the law sector or something, they're interested in knowing who within their cohort has won an award, and they want to celebrate that with you. But my advice would be, you know, if you had won on Friday, really something should have gone out on Monday to gain traction, because like the Evening Echo coverage, it's starting to appear. Other awards will be featured then next week from in other publications. They'll move on to the next story.
Okay.
Yeah. But use the photographs and use them on social media a lot. Once you've got the professional photograph from your photographer and credit him, use it everywhere.
I published mine, even though I've actually done. I did it myself.
Good. Yeah. But you're getting yourself out in front of your customers and your clients, Susanna, which is good.
Yeah. So, I don't have more questions actually. So, but do you have any questions? So, please feel free to just either write it down in the chat or unmute yourself and ask any questions.
Maybe if I could just add as well, Susanna, you know, I might finish a campaign with a client, so there's a beginning and an end, because the story has a beginning and an end, but I don't forget my clients. I'm always looking for opportunities and always on the lookout for things. And sometimes journalists do come back to me and say, Lucy, do you have a client who might fit this profile? Or do you have someone who could speak on X? And then I'll go back and I say, well, actually I do, yes. You know, and I just, there'll be that random call again, or that random, you know, like Maura has appeared great, you know, widely in the media as well. And, you know, we tic-tac sometimes if there's an opportunity very specific to interior design and it comes across my desk, well, then I'll think of Maura because I've worked with Maura, you know. And so I never really forget the story or the client. They're always there in the background. And I'm always looking for new opportunities to get people's stories out, and to be, especially when I'm very proud of them and what they're doing, and really want to give them a push.
That's brilliant. So, anyone has any questions?
They're probably all hungry.
Susanna, can I just, I suppose for anybody, like I suppose for someone like me now that's, you know, pushes myself out there in the media and stuff like that, and put on different social media platforms and stuff like that, is there any things that I could do, Lucy, that you see that, and other people obviously would be at the same level here, and ourselves, or even new entrepreneurs, what would be the best things for us to do to kind of get ourselves maybe that edge, or, you know?
Well, I can see you're putting yourself out there as an expert, you know, like you using the plants and all of that. That was really good coverage in the Examiner that you got. So yeah. You're different to other interior designers. Because you have that extra expertise, and that's what makes you stand out and being different. You're great because you continue to write your weekly column in the paper. Thinking of content for that alone, Maura, must be a challenge. Trying to keep it fresh and new. And it's putting yourself out there as an expert, and you keep your profile consistent. So that
keep it going, like
and there's that consistency, but at times you introduce something new, like with using the plants and bringing them into the
biophilic design.
I can't think of what that word is. I can never.
No, biophilic design. You're okay, Lucy.
But just being consistent in the message, and I think once you have good visuals as well, which you do, I appreciate that perhaps a lot of photographs you might take might be on your phone at times. But then at times you're going to have to leave the professionally taken ones for the likes of the Examiner, the Times, those kind of ones. So being very conscious and aware of the difference, that if you're, you know, what types of photographs will suit what media and what they will accept, because you've got to get it right the first time, as you know. Otherwise they'd go to someone else.
Okay. Yeah.
Well done on all your efforts.
Thank you.
She's a star. She's a star, Maura. Lucy, Maura's a star at the moment.